Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on your time zone, where you're joining us from, or when you're watching this recording. Welcome again to another episode of Let's Talk Scholarships. It's a wonderful Saturday evening over here for me. And here with me in the studio is one of our wonderful guests who's going to be sharing her experience with us. Today's session is talking about a very unique opportunity that is sponsored by Schlumberger Foundation, the Faculty for the Future Scholarship Fellowship. And our speaker will be talking to us about her unique experience, how she applied for the scholarship, the benefits, and everything around it, and how it helped her to complete her PhD. As usual, if you're joining us for the first time, just go into the comment section. Please let us know your name and where you're joining us from, so we have a feel of the audience that we have. And I'll introduce myself, so I don't forget. I'm Buchi. I was a Commonwealth scholar at the University of Leeds 2022-2023. I did my master's in transport planning and engineering. And yeah, so I usually host these sessions on this platform. So we usually come with different topics or different scholarship opportunities with the scholars that have won these opportunities, and we'd like them to share their experiences with us and also let us know of what opportunities there are out there. So today I have a wonderful lady in the studio, Stella, who has volunteered to join us on such short notice. I want to thank you for being with us on such short notice. So I will let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does, the scholarship, and every other thing that she wants to say. Just a brief introduction before we go into the topic itself. Stella, over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Uchi, and greetings to everyone who is watching. As Uchi has said, my name is Stella. I am a spatial ecologist currently at ISIPE, and I am also a beneficiary of several scholarship from my postgraduate level, and I look forward to sharing my experience of how I applied for this foundation that I got in my final year of my PhD. That is 2023, and I was able to finish and graduate in April 2024 this year. So thank you, Uchi, for having me, and I look forward to having a nice discussion with everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I know you mentioned that you work at ICIPE, ICIPE.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that? What does that fully mean? Because I
Um,
know not everyone knows what it is. So yeah.
Yeah, so ISIPE is the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. It's an international organization the main campus is based in Nairobi, Kenya. It has four health units, but I'm currently based in the environmental health unit, where I'm working on the effect of climate change on pollination services and understanding if there are pollination deficit in various study area and what that means in terms of food security and also human health. Before then, I've been at ISIPE since 2018. That is where I actually did my PhD. It was fully funded by ISIPE. That is why I'm saying I'm a beneficiary of several other scholarship. So ISIPE has a scholarship called DRIP, and this is project based. So you're brought in as a PhD student to work on some objectives in a project, but you get enrolled in universities either abroad or wherever you choose to. And for my case, I went back to the University of Twente in the Netherlands, faculty ITC, and I was working on flies and trying to understand their distribution in recent changes and also changes human activities. Yeah, but ISIPE is generally large, and there are human health, there is animal health, environmental health, and also plant health, but basically dealing with insects, both good and bad.
Okay, that's a very interesting story. I learned something new for just that short. introduction that you did there, which is good. Which is good. It gives me an expectation that this session is going to be rich. Thank you so much for being here with us. Just before we go on, I just want to say to the viewers, for those of us that are joining from LinkedIn, uh, if you're watching on LinkedIn, if you want to drop a comment, please tap on the video and put your comment into the comment box when the video on the video section, not a comment on the post that's advertising the video, because that way we won't be able. If you put it on the post, you won't be able to see your comments and your questions in the back end. But if you tap the video and put in your comment, we'll be able to see your comments on the back end. So I just wanted to say that for our audience on LinkedIn. For Facebook and YouTube, just use the normal comment section. We'll hopefully see your messages, and hopefully there are no technical glitches today. Good. So that brings us straight into the conversation. The Schlumberger Foundation Faculty for the Future Fellowship. A very, very interesting opportunity. Um, Personally, I don't know much about the opportunity. I just know a few people that have gotten the scholarship. I've never tried to apply for it myself. I've applied to a few different scholarships when I was trying to start my master's degree, home and abroad, you know. But I never really explored this one. So I'm also part of those learning. I've not done a PhD, so it might be something I need to look into in the future. So I'll be asking some questions that I think are important to me. And anyone in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to always drop them in the comment section and we'll try to take them up from there. Okay. So I think my next question would be, how did you get to find out about this scholarship? I know we've talked before and you said that you got it in your last year of PhD. So you were already doing the PhD, you were already almost through with it at the tail end when you got the support that this funding offered. So how did you come about getting that information?
Okay, so I knew about the Schlumberger Foundation Faculty for the Future for quite a long time, and that is from 2018. After I finished my master's degree, my university supervisor mentioned it to me when I told him that I was ready to pursue a PhD, but I was lacking funding. And he mentioned that he had another student from Rwanda who got a 4-year funding from the Faculty for the Future. And as soon as I heard about it, I tried. I attempted. My first attempt was in 2018, and unfortunately, I did not get it. And in 2019, I wanted to try again, but Kenya was not listed as a country that qualified for application. So I didn't apply for it. And also in 2019 is when I had gotten the ISIPE scholarship, DRIP scholarship. Late 2019 is when I had gotten the ISIPE scholarship, and I had enrolled at the University of Twente as an external student. But the good thing with Faculty for the Future grant is that it allows you to apply for it even if you have another funding as a top up. I don't know the limitation of which bodies have to be funding you for you to be able to apply for it. But even if you have another funding that you can apply for the Faculty for the Future as a top up grant or as the main grant if you have another half grant. So in 2019, Kenya was not part of the countries that were qualified. So I did not apply for it. In 2020, I applied for it again. I did not get it. I think in 2021, Kenya again was not in the list of the countries, but in 2022, Kenya was in the list, and I tried for it for a third time. So the one that I got was a third attempt for the faculty for the grant. And yeah, I would say it came when I really needed it, because at that time my scholarship with ISIPE was coming to an end, because the scholarship is about 3 years with potential to extend for half a year, 6 months. And in between, I had some. I chose to become a mother, so that also came with some challenges of finishing in time for the 3 years. And Also, the demands from my university were quite huge because they required me to at least have 3 papers fully published and one submitted on top of the thesis. So I was not able to finish on time. So I really needed another funding to be able to finish and to be able to support myself. And that's that I would say that time is a charm or a luck or whatever they say, because that is when I got the awarded the grant. But I've been trying since 2018.
Okay, that's a very, very interesting story. I think I like the fact that you said that your supervisor was the one that mentioned it to you and you took action on it.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that you attempted the first time and it didn't work, and you still tried again, and you still tried again, and you eventually got it. So, because I know in this journey of scholarships and grants, there's always a lot of rejections before you get accepted. It's usually part of the process. I think it's like that. I think it's like that generally in opportunities in life, but for this one, it's usually that if you get rejected, some people feel discouraged and don't want to try. But like on this program, I always say you most of the time you lose nothing by trying, because most of the time the application for these things are free, because
Yeah.
they make those applications free so that there's no barrier to the people that really need it. So I think that's a very good point. So talk to your supervisor. So for those of us in the audience that might be thinking of doing a PhD or might have already started a PhD, I think it's good that you talk to your supervisors, prospective supervisors or current supervisors, and ask them if they know of any opportunities. And also talk to your network of people that you know that are currently doing PhDs. There's this people feel like people don't want to share opportunities with them, but I think it's more or less people won't talk about some of these things unless you ask them. So I think it's good that you ask people around, what opportunities are there. I never feel discouraged to apply. Always try to apply. Uh, the so I think I don't know how exactly it works, because, like you've said, uh, Kenya was listed 1 year, it wasn't listed another year. Do you know why that is, or is it just something that the administrative body handles? Do you know?
So when I tried to apply again in 2020, I think, or was it 2019? And the only way with the Faculty for the Future Fellowship for you to know if a country is qualifying to apply or not is if one, you have alumni, because there's a huge network, and the in the huge network we still have access to some of the Faculty for the Future staff member that share information. You ask them if a country is qualifying or not. But if you've never applied, the only way to know is either you try applying again, you get to the system, the drop arrow list, you find that your country is not there, and that's how you know. Or for me, that is how I knew, because I was trying to apply for it again. I checked, Kenya was not under the countries, and I reached out to the email that they have given in their website. And one thing I have to applaud Faculty for the Future staff is that they are very responsive. Whichever question you have, they always get back to you. So when I wrote to them and I told them I was trying to apply for this grant, but I can't see my country, they explained to me and they said that it's not them who decides which country is there, but they take a list of several bodies that determine if a country is developed or developing or moving this thing, and they combine that list and come up with the list of the countries that are developing or something. So this thing changes every year. Like for those years, Kenya was not in the list of the developing countries. It had moved to developed countries, but for some reason now we are back, because also this year we qualified to apply for it. So the only way is to know somebody who is an alumni to ask for you in the groups that we are members as alumni, or just log into the system, try to apply, and if you don't find your country in the drop list, then your country is not part of it that year.
Okay. Okay. Important tips. So for those of us that are applying, go and explore the system, see what you find.
Yeah,
Okay. So I think another question I might have is you mentioned before that you can apply for the scholarship as either a main source of funding or as a top up to maybe partial funding that you're already on.
yeah,
So and I know that the way the from the people I've talked to, the way it works, if you apply this year and you want to get the next year, you have to apply for a renewal and
yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
Yeah. So can you just talk a little bit about that based on what you know? I know you said you got it in your last year, so you never did the
yeah,
renewal process. So maybe we'll have somebody else to talk about that later on. But
yeah.
just based on what you know, as based on the main funding and the top up funding, how exactly does that work based on what you know?
Okay, so maybe just for clarity, is not based on my understanding is that the scholarship is one, the faculty for the future scholarship is one. It's not like there are two parts, whether you're looking for partial funding. But what I meant is that you can still apply for it even if you're funded by another body, but there's a question where you have to declare that you're receiving funding from this organization and this organization, and also the amount of funding you're receiving from them. So, like for example, for me, when I was applying, I was still receiving funding, stipend funding from ISIPE. They were taking care of my research costs, and the university had waived all the 100% waive on tuition fees. And I mentioned all this information, and that did not stop them from giving me the grant. So you have a part where you have to honestly say that you have this grant and this and this and this, but then on the other side is that that money might not be enough. Like for instance, for my case, the agreement that was between ISIPE and ITC, the universities, that I was supposed to spend some time, I think at least a month for the years I was a student at the university. But then COVID came, and I had to do that at the end of my studentship with the University of Twente. And so I needed money to survive in the Netherlands, and the stipend that is paid by ISIPE is not sufficient because of the different requirements. So that was part of my justification why I was applying, even if I was still getting some stipend from Kenya. The difference, the minimum needed amount for me to survive in the Netherlands is quite high compared to what we are being paid here in Kenya. So all these things were all part of my justification why, even if I am still getting some funding from ISIPE, why I would really use the financial help from Faculty for the Future. So there are so many questions. I would say the form is very long, so you have to be really patient, and you have to work hard to answer all the questions. Most of the questions might look like they are repetitive, but the key thing that I would say out of the experience of failing to get the grant and getting it is that you have to be very detailed. You have to give all the information as it is without leaving anything.
Okay. So just on that topic, what exactly are the requirements?
Uh,
Because yeah, because already we've talked about the eligibility. So if your country has to be listed for you to apply, so that's already there. So if your country is listed, you can apply. So and we've also said you can apply whether you've started or you haven't started your PhD, for example.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what exactly are the core requirements that you need to apply
Um,
for? You said the form is long, so if there's anything you can remember from the form.
yeah, the form is, I think most of the details are well provided by them, but the Faculty for the Future is Women in STEM grant, so it doesn't support men. So it's purely for women. It doesn't support masters. It's only for PhD and postdoc. And the first requirement is that you have to be female. The second requirement is that is that you have to be doing a PhD or a postdoc. And for PhDs, and I think I'm not sure about postdoc, but for PhDs is that by the time you're applying, you don't really need have to be. They give you a timeline when you can submit the letter of acceptance to the university. So you don't really need to have it at the time, if I remember correctly, but this information is on their website. But if I remember correctly, the very first times that I applied is that you didn't really need to have the admission letter from the university, but this had to be given, I think, within 4 weeks after the deadline or something like that. The other thing is that you must have a home institution. So by home institution for me is that I needed to have an organization in Kenya. This can be normally they take sorry, higher chances with you are if you're working in government institution or you're a lecturer. They clearly indicate that, because the key thing is of getting this grant is to continue mentoring other girls in science, in STEM languages. So you need an organization, preferably a non-governmental organization or international organization, or government, be employed by the government. You stand higher chances if you are a lecturer, I would say that. The other thing is that you must have supervisor, and you must justify how that supervisor in your home country is relevant to the course that you're going to do. How does he fit in? How is he going to support you and all that? And you need a university abroad. In developed countries, you need to have you cannot be enrolled in university in the developing countries. They have to be the developed countries. And in that university, you must also have a supervisor, and you must also justify how that supervisor is the perfect one for the project that you're proposing to do. You must write a proposal. In those questions, there are proposal and the level of significance. The proposal that you're writing must be significant or very needed in your home country. So I don't know, I'm not sure if they do accept, like, you're doing a project that is very relevant, let's say for a country like the UK, and that's a developed country. So I don't think it works like that, because they clearly say that your project has to be very, very needed and relevant in your home country. So if you're in Kenya, you have to work on a questions or a project that is very needed in Kenya. I mentioned that you must have home organization that fit in your project. In that home organization, you have a supervisor who fit in your project. Same with the university abroad and a supervisor there. The other thing, I don't think I can remember, but yeah, I think basically those are the key things that you need to have, because your supervisors must send a reference letter for your application to be complete. This reference letter is sent, they get an email and a login in the account, and they have to submit it. So you'll never see it, but they must. The two of them, they must submit it. Yeah, those are some of the requirements that I can remember.
Okay. So, just to recap a little bit, there has to be a link between your home country and the developed country where you're going to study.
Yes.
So, even if you're not a lecturer, for example, you have to
Yeah.
find a university in your home country and have a supervisor from your home country?
No,
And
n-
no.
no. I just say that being a lecturer uh, gives you a higher chance. I haven't been a lecturer myself, and the justification, of course, they kind of, I would say, and these are my individual opinion, not the opinions of the faculty, but I think they prefer, and they, because there are questions of how have you been mentoring girls. There is a question about that, besides the ones that you lecture. So the lecturing part, I would say, is quite important. But the justification myself I had is that since I, for the past several years, is that Kenya, for you to become a lecturer now, they demand you have a PhD. So for me to become a lecturer, I have to have had a PhD before. But most they do require for you to show evidence, and then also again there is a place where you have to write where you're going back to when you finish your PhD, and in most cases for that they require a university. So they just a university where you're going back to lecture. So what I did is I spoke to my supervisors for my BSc, and because they knew the situation that currently new employment is not being done if you don't have a PhD, I was in contact with them. I'm still in contact with them now about the potential opportunities for me to become a lecturer there. So those are the emails that I shared. But I believe there is a point where you have to fill in some details about a university where either you lecture or you intend to lecture. But for the host supervisor, he or she doesn't have to be a university, a lecturer, because mine was a principal scientist, but
Oh, okay.
has to be in a research organization that fits in with the project that you're proposing to do. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. I think that's clearer now. So supervisor abroad, you
Yeah.
must have that one, but you have to have a home tie, which is someone that is also connected to the project that you're working on from a home perspective. And then you have to provide that link.
For clarity, for the home institution, you have to be working there for that
Ah, okay.
project that you are proposing to do. At least that is my understanding. Because I think after self-evaluation of the first two application that I did, is that there was a huge disconnect with the project that I was proposing to do and the organization where I was proposing that that is my home institution. So I was proposing to do something with rangelands and vegetation phenology, but at that time I was still working on the things that I'm working on now. That is insects ecology. And I suspect they never give you feedback why you don't get it. But I suspect that, yeah, you never get feedback. You just get a very well written letter of regret. But I suspect that the disconnect between what I was proposing to do and the organization that was hosting me played some role in me not getting the grants, the fellowship in the first two attempts.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Because I was just about to ask about, your reflections from the first two failed attempts, but I think you've covered that. Unless there's anything more you want to share about that.
Maybe so for the first attempt, there was a huge disconnect with the organization that was hosting me and the project that I was proposing to do. And then also again, at that time I did not have any publication of my own other than my master's thesis. And I think to some extent that also played a role because they are very keen. There's a question on how established are you in your research and all that. And one way to show it is at least have a publication to your name. And at that point, I did not have any. So I also think that the first attempt was the disconnect between the organization hosting me and the project that I was proposing to do, and the fact that I did not have any publication. And then also again, I was not attentive to detail about the question. I didn't give it too much effort for the first attempt. I didn't take the questions seriously and reflect on them before I answered them. And there were so many missing gap with the first one. Now, for the second one, I had started the PhD, so I was right in the organization. So there was no disconnect for the second one. But I think they weren't so sure because I was almost a year into the research, but I didn't even have a publication yet.
Oh,
So I didn't have it was still the same story of proposal at this point. I think almost 1 year and some 1 year, exactly 1 year into it, or it was almost 2 years into it, and I didn't have anything to show because they're investing a lot of money in you, and they need to be sure that you're doing research about it, because they are investing in us to be able to go back and encourage other women to grow in STEM and all that. They are very specific about that. So for them to fund you, I think they really need to be sure that this person is doing something that is relevant, not in their country, and this is someone who can be vocal and mentor other women to join this. So for the second attempt, I think also I didn't look serious. I knew I was serious, but the application, the application did not look serious because I think it was almost 1 year point something. I did not have anything other than the things I was proposing to do, and one paper that had been with the journal for almost 6 months. So it was still under review for like 6 months, and I think also, those things. But by the time I was applying for that time, I had at least two publications that were based on my thesis, and I had also gotten another small personal grant, yeah, from the Royal Netherlands of Academy Sciences to for data collection. So I think now this showed them that this person is working on something. But that is my personal experience, because I know there are people that have gotten it the first attempt, but this is my personal experience and reflection.
yeah, thank you. I think I like the honesty that you're coming to the conversation with, to say that you've reflected and you are serious, but maybe on paper you were not looking serious the way you wrote the applications. Because I think that's one thing. If you need to take your applications seriously, you need to understand the questions that are being asked. I think one of the advice we usually give on this platform is that if you're applying for a scholarship or a grant or a project, it's good to understand the background behind what that funding is for. People don't just give out money for no reason. There has to be a reason behind, and different bodies give out the funding for different reasons. So if you understand the reason why this body is giving out this funding, I think you can better place your application in a place to receive the funding, because you are aligning with their goals and their targets. So,
Yeah.
like you said, now there's a very strong team of empowering women, educating women in STEM. And so, anyone that's applying should bear that in mind when they are making their application and their case. That you have to come with that goal, because that is the goal that the scholarship is aimed at.
Yeah.
Uh, so you've said that you okay, like you said, obviously some people apply for it on the first attempt even before they start. Probably their proposal is good and they have a lot of other supporting documents to show. But you've gotten yours towards the end. I remember at the beginning of our conversation when you were doing your introduction, you mentioned that you along the way you decided to become a mother, and that also played a role in maybe taking your program beyond your intended timeline, for example, which necessitated the need for a final push of funding to get you through the program. Do you want to reflect on that a little bit? I know there are some people that are applying. So some people think if you have a family, it's difficult to do a PhD. I know that doing a PhD is difficult in general. Everyone I know that has done a PhD has always said that it's a difficult process. So whether you're single, married, parent or not parent, I know it's not an easy thing. So, but for your own personal journey, do you want to talk about, juggling the PhD and, parenthood and funding application and all that, just to encourage those of us that might be skeptical about whether it's possible to do it?
Yeah. So I think I needed my son to give me a push. So he's really a very important part of me finalizing the PhD. Um, at the beginning, when I was starting my PhD, as I said, is that I was an external student, and my promoter was not very comfortable with it. He knew that he will invest his time to guide me, and if it gets so hard, I'm going to disappear along the way. And it's very possible, uh, because when now I reflect back, is that the amount of research that I did after I got my son is maybe thrice what I did when I didn't have a son, when I didn't have a child. So for me, my son was the motivation to do this and finish this, because PhD is hard. And I don't think it's maybe using the term hard is scary, but I think um, PhD teaches you to be something you're not used to be. Like it pushes your very tiny buttons of patience, your very tiny buttons of having to still stay mature when you're being criticized, taking advice positively and all that. So when you don't have, for my case, when I did not have something to keep me grounded, I didn't see the need to, like, you're telling me this, I can always quit, and but having my son, I was like, wow, now we have to, there's nothing, we have invested like 2 years, because I got my son on the second year, no, third year. Yeah. I got my son on the third year, and I was like, what am I going to look like when you've invested 3 years? You have maybe one paper. I had one paper published, one paper under review. I just needed another one, and another one submitted. And I was like, he got me grounded. And then with the Faculty for the Future grant, is that they have a special funding for families and children. So for every child that you have, the grant is meant for the grantee, which is you. But because they know the dynamics that comes with being a woman, having responsibilities of motherhood and all that, they have a grant that they give for children. So for every child that you have between the age of, is it 0 to 6, they give you, is it, I think, $3,000 per year, or something like that, per year, for every child that you have. And then for every child that you have between, I think, the age of 6 to 14, they also have some amount that they give for you, every child, not only one child, but every child that you have. I honestly have to say that it is hard to do a PhD as a parent, and for me it was really tough, because I decided that another thing about the grant is that you have to move from your home country to your host, where the university is abroad. And for me, this point, I had to move with my child. And being a full-time PhD, full-time mother was not easy. It was not easy, but I had very supportive supervisors. I really thank them up to date, because within that period, I was able to finish my PhD in 7 months. Actually, the submission in 7 months, I was able to get the second paper, third paper, and submit the fourth paper, and also submit my thesis. So I went to the Netherlands in May, and by December I was done. And by the time I was coming, I only had one paper. But one thing that really played a huge role in me focusing is the Faculty for the Future Fellowship, because what happens is that they award you the grant, and then you have to send them a budget of how you think your living expenses is going to look like, the things that you need to pay, and all that. And again, what I realized with the Faculty for the Future is that you really have to be honest. Just be honest with them. So I explained my case. I didn't have tuition, but because I was moving there with my son, and I know there are the minimum requirements of how you can stay when you have a child. You're not going to stay in just any houses. So I explained to them, and then at that time there were housing crises in the Netherlands, and getting a house was so expensive. So I explained to them and budgeted for the amount that I had seen, that this is the most common amount of the house rent that I can pay, including the utilities that you need to pay. I budgeted for everything, and there was no problem. They just approved it. So that comfort of knowing that you're getting the money that you need to live and survive, with your son or your children factored in it, for me it was really good. And it's one of the reasons that even though there were some difficulties, because also abroad when you're moving with kids, daycare is quite expensive, but the grant helped a lot for me. But I would encourage any woman out there who is feeling like there's a choice to make between, oh, if I get a family or children, I'm not going to progress in careers. I think it's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. It's how you prioritize your things. I've been able to achieve my PhD now at the age of 32, and also make it as a mom, as a single parent, actually, alone. So you don't have to limit yourself. You don't have to put these barriers in your head, because all these things are just in your head. You just have to plan yourself, prioritize where to take your energy in specific periods of time. Like for that period when I was in the Netherlands doing my PhD, and also being a full time mom, I didn't have a lot of energy to socialize or have friends, and that's okay. It was temporarily. I needed to achieve one goal at a time. So be fair to yourself. Allow yourself to maybe look like you're lagging behind in some aspect of your life, but your focus is there. You know what you need to attain at this point. That is what I would advise them. You cannot attain everything at the same time. You have to prioritize that this is what I need to attain, and to attain this, I need to let go one, two, three, and then focus your energy on that. Once that is done, now move to the next step and do that. Yeah, it's hard but doable.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think I resonate very well with that last point. You have to prioritize what you want, and you can't achieve everything at the same time. You have to take it one at a time. I think I also like the fact that you said that you got grounded when you had your son. Like he gave you
Yes.
he gave you a bit of focus. Now
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
someone that you they have someone to take care of, so you need to sit up a little bit. So that's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
So we are coming to the end of today's session. So I just have one more question, but before I ask my last question, let me just say, anyone in the audience that has any question, please, this is the time to put it in the chat before we round up and we go. So if you have any question, just put it in the comment section, and we will try to take it up before our time is done. Just so that we can allow Stella to get back to other duties. I know that there's a big time difference between both of us, so I wouldn't want to keep you too late. Good. So my last question was supposed to be on the what's it called? Have I forgotten my question? Seems I've forgotten my question. Yes. So the grants, the package, because you've said that you talked about the package that you get for every child that you have, the support that the Faculty for the Future gives you. So I just want you to kind of summarize the full, because it's a fully funded opportunity, if I'm correct. So I just want you
Um,
to.
it has a maximum amount of money, I think $50,000 per year for
Okay.
PhD
Okay.
and
Yeah. So
$40,000.
yeah. So just I think that was my question actually. So can you just put just the whole package of what the opportunity is? Just try to summarize what that looks like for anyone that hasn't heard of it before.
Okay, the Faculty for the Future, like I've said, is that they only fund PhD and postdoc. For PhD, they give up to a maximum of $50,000, and these cover your tuition fee and your stipend if you have tuition fee. And they clearly state that if your tuition fee is too much, you have to find an alternative funding. So that I think that is why they are very flexible if you're already funded. For the postdoc, I think it's 40,000 per year. For both, you will get awarded the full amount, but you have to send a budget. And in most instances, the budget doesn't go to that far, I would say. You have to send a budget that is justifiable. So you're not going to say, like for my case, because sorry, because I did not have a tuition fee, that you're going to get a monthly allowance of $4,000 or something like that. So they also, I think, they have some way to balance. They have the limitation. They know the minimum amount that is allowed, that is required for each country, or the average rate of stipend, and they always try to balance. In terms of children, I cannot remember correctly, but every child that is between 0 to 6 years is given a maximum of 3,000 per year, and for all your children there is, I think, a maximum of $10,000. Another thing I forgot to mention is that from when I got the grant, I think I was their lucky charm, is that the Faculty for the Future is now giving people home return grant for you to reintegrate back to your country. That is, if you go back 6 months after you're done with your PhD. This never used to be there before until 2023 when I got the grant, and I was awarded it, and I've been using it. The grant is meant for some small stipend. There's a maximum cap on the stipend, and you can use the rest of the money for international collaborative visits, and yeah, and conferences, purchasing some materials and all that. But also for that, you need to apply. You will get information once you're done with your PhD on how to apply for it. And yeah, so in total, I would say for the PhD is about 50 plus 3,000 for kids below 6 years. Postdoc, the same. For the home return grant is $10,000 one time.
Okay. Does this also does this also include the cost of travel?
Oh, okay. So they give you relocation money when you're relocating. I That's $3,000 when you're relocating, and they pay your flights to go and also to come back.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So there's
Sounds very generous.
Yeah, it is like it was my heaven sent angel or something. I would say. It was, I was shocked. And another thing is that now that I'm part of the alumni network, is that I've learned uh, close to when they are opening for the scholarship, they have information sessions. So now this is information that you will get, and also get to answer question the faculty for the future staff themselves, not the things that I'm saying. So they always offer these information session. I think now they are done, but they send emails to alumni, and you can share within your networks. And they have information session, I think, in English, French, and Spanish, and Arabic, I think.
Okay, thank you. I think we've gotten two questions that came in, but I'll try to combine the two questions together because I think answering one might lead to the other. So the first question is from Friends of the Deaf International Foundation. That's asking, thank you for the inspiration. I want to ask if she had a master's before embarking on her PhD. And the second question from Winnie is asking, does the university abroad have to be in the Netherlands? So I know that in the start of the discussion, if I remember, you mentioned that you did your master's in the Netherlands, and then it was your supervisor that connected you to this opportunity. So I know you have a master's, but maybe you can answer that question about whether. Well, she asked whether you had a master. So my own question will now be: is a master's part of the requirements to have before you apply for a PhD? And must it be in the Netherlands or must it be in any developed country?
I would say that I think a master's is mandatory because they clearly state that they do not fund masters. I know, I think in the UK, there's a way you can start with your master's and then progress to the PhD or something like that. I've had their countries like that. But I think you can only apply if the letter of admission states that you're doing a PhD, because they do not fund masters. And yes, I had a master's from the University of Twente again, where I got my PhD. But I don't think they require that a master's has to be from a developed country or abroad. I'm not sure about that, but I already had my master's.
Okay. So I think the other side of Winnie's question would be the when you get the scholarship to do your PhD, the developed country you're going to, must it be the Netherlands? Because you've said
No, no,
Netherlands. So I think
no. I think most people are all over. As long as it's a developed, there are so many in the US. The only difference is that there are so many in Europe, so many in the US, and I also learned that South Africa, some South African university also, there's some funding, but I don't think if it's so common for South Africa. The only difference is that if your university is based in Europe, they send money to you directly, and they send this money for 6 months. So you also have to be a good finance manager, because they give you a lump sum of 6 months and then another lump sum of 6 months. In the US, they pay the university and then you're paid monthly. So there it's better because it's managed for you. But for for Europe, you have to be a very good financial manager. If you're required to pay any taxes, it's for you to pay the taxes. It's not for the faculty to pay the taxes for you. Based on my understanding, is for you to pay taxes. And yeah, it doesn't have to be Netherlands. It can be any university abroad in developed countries. And I think it has to be best in your field or something like that. There are those universities that are known to be good for mechanical engineering and all that. So it has to be a university abroad that is quite good for the field that you're working in.
okay. Thank you. So just before we drop off, because we are almost at the 1 hour mark, I think one more question came in from Maurice. Does the scholarship also support social sciences related topics such as climate change adaptation, work with smallholder farmers, or only pure science topics?
Um, I don't know if my answer is going to be sufficient, but I have noted that they do. I would say that my topic was not anything to do with the pure science topic. It was more of social science, because it was part of social science, natural science, humanity. I did not do any lab work or anything. I am a geospatial and remote sensing expert, and what I was doing was species distribution modeling in different climatic scenarios and all that, and I got funded. So I would say, don't limit yourself to wait until you're doing things to do with the pure sciences and all that. Just write your proposal, and the key thing is ensuring that you justify that this is a huge, huge problem in my country and it needs to be handled. And this is at the end of my PhD, at the end of this research, this is the kind of progress that I'm going to have given in this field. So don't limit yourself. I think climate change adaptation for smallholder farmers is a topic that is everybody is interested in helping, given food security. Food insecurity is just a big issue right now. So I think you should try with your topic. Just justify what kind of problems is it causing and what input are you going to give. Because, like, for me, for example, is that since 1960 we didn't have an updated map of fly distribution in the country, and this was something that was now needed. Climate is changing, human activity is increasing, and I just justified it. So just justify. I think they will take it.
Okay, thank you for that wonderful answer. So, as usual, I will just add, you lose nothing by trying. So, make a very good attempt, follow through the procedure, make your case. There's this thing that I want to just add. Never be afraid to be the first person to do something, even if they were only taking people in the pure sciences. Your proposal might be the one that makes them to start to think, oh, maybe we need to start giving people in this space some attention because this guy's application makes sense. It makes a very good case. So also think about those kind of things when you're applying. Don't always shy away from opportunities because you're not very sure if you're qualified or not. I think the best way to know if you're qualified is to apply and let them tell you that you got it or you didn't get it. So just this is just a general advice to everybody. Opportunities come in different shapes and forms. The more you apply, the more your chances of getting something, the more opportunity you have to learn about the things that you don't know. Just like Stella said, when she did her first one and her second, I'm sure when you made the first application, you thought you've made a wonderful application
Yeah.
until you came back and made the second one, and then you realized, oh, that one, the first one I did, what was I talking about? What was I actually talking about there? You know? And then when you finally get it, you're like, oh, I see why I didn't get it before. But you've learned something through the process of doing that. So that is something that everyone should take away. You actually get better the more you do these things. So if you have multiple opportunities to apply for things, I would always advise apply and make the best of it. And you never know. The one you may be thinking that you're going to get may not be the one you get. It might be the one that you think you're not going to get that ends up giving you the opportunity that you need. So I'm saying this because we are rounding up. I can see no more questions in the audience, and we've almost hit the 1 hour mark. So at this point, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone that's listening, to everyone that's putting their comments, to the questions that we've asked. Special thank you to you, Stella, for giving us a very wholesome and honest conversation. I know it's your first time with us on this program, so really, really appreciate. We would love to have you back in due time to talk about other opportunities because you talked about different opportunities when you were talking about, but we're focusing on the faculty for the future today. So we might call you back again to share your story about other things and even about your master's in the Netherlands. Good. So with that being said, as usual, I would say the application is already on and there's going to be a lot of information on the website, which we have not talked about here today because it's there for everyone to go and digest. So go to the website, get yourself acquainted with the information that is there. The deadline is on the 8th of November, from what I saw on the website when I checked yesterday. 8th of November is the deadline for application. So if you've started an application, or if you're thinking of starting an application, this is the best time to get going. You know, uh, we're already towards the last few weeks of the application. So be like Stella, get grounded, get focused, and push it to the end. Get it done. Yeah. So wonderful conversation, wonderful insight. I've learned a lot myself. Thank you very much for being with us. Is there anything you want to say to the audience before, any final words before we log out?
Maybe thank you for listening, and also about the application process is that for those who get to apply, normally you will hear from the foundation at the end of March. So every year you get it, whether it's congratulations or a regret, you get it at the end of March every year. For the supervisors, they are given more time to the deadline is a few days after. So if the deadline this time is 8th, I think the supervisors have like an extra week for them to submit the reference, but it's your responsibility to follow up with them and ensure that they have submitted. Sometimes the password to the supervisors doesn't work, but as I said, just write to them on that email address in the contact form. They always get back and they will send new information. And for those planning to apply, I wish you all the best. You're really going to enjoy being a faculty for the future fellow. It's the best, I would say, fellowship that I've gotten.
Thank you so much for that last bit of information. Very important points here. As usual, I would make this last advice: read, read, and read. Please, if you're making any application, go to the website, digest all the information that is there. There's a reason why those websites are set up. Go to the frequently asked questions, read what they've written there so that you actually get a good understanding of what the opportunity is about, and helps you to make a better application. The second thing I would say is this: you can search for either of us on LinkedIn. If you have any personal questions that you feel like the information on the website is not answering, or you want to make an inquiry about, so just search for me. You can just search my name on LinkedIn. For Stella is the same. You can just search for her name on LinkedIn, and you find her profile. I don't know if I'll be able to get the link and put in the comment section, but I'll try. So yeah, so that's just it. But in my usual fashion, I would always make this case. Please, if you're reaching out to someone that you don't know on LinkedIn, please try as much as possible to go straight to the point. Let them know why you're reaching out to them. Don't connect and start making short conversations that might just take you a lot longer to get the information that you want. Be polite, send your greetings, let them know I'm reaching out to you because I attended this webinar on this date on this topic. You said this and that. I have a question around this. Can you please help me to clarify ABCD? And then let the person respond, because some of us are busy. We might not always be able to get through all our messages in time. And because, like I said, the application is about to close, or is closing in a few weeks. So the earlier you get the information you need, I think the better for you. So I just say make that move, ask your question if you need to, and make it as snappy and as direct as possible so you get a good answer. Let me just see. I'm trying to pull a link to your profile. Let me see if I
Okay.
can put that in the comment section. There we go. Good. So let me just good. Yeah, so that will take you to Stella's profile. For myself, just search my name, or let me see if I can get my own as well, just so that it's easy for everyone. Let me see. Browser. Good. Okay. Yeah, found it. Okay. Sorry. Go. Yeah, so that's for me. And let me also just put it in the comment section. There we go. Good. So that brings us to the end of today's discussion. I'd like to say a very big thank you again to Stella for joining us on such short notice. For those that may not know, I think we reached out to you about 2 days ago or so. And to be honest, we were very skeptical about anyone answering the call because we just found out that the application date is close at hand. But you made it happen, and it's been a very wonderful discussion with you. So I want to appreciate you very very much for being on this platform with us. And I know that the audience also had a very good feel about what the opportunity is about, and the more they explore, the more they would begin to understand what it is, and they will also begin to enjoy those things that you enjoyed as well. Great. So that brings us to the end of today's program. Uh, so wherever you are, if you're watching, if you're with us live, or if you're watching this recording later, we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and that you've enjoyed the session and that it's been very, very informational for you, that you've gotten a lot of information that you need. You've been informed about the opportunity. And if you have any follow up questions, do reach out to us and we'll try as much as possible to help you where we can or to point you in the right direction where we cannot. So, with that being said, I'd call it a night and I'd say goodbye and all the best to all those applying. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.